This is episode 56, Becoming Aligned, Empowered with high-performance mentor and coach, Sandra Hessely.
Can you remember a time you failed? A time you were so close to your goal, but it all came crashing down? We've all been there. But why does this happen? Why do we sometimes fail when we attempt to scale? Here's the secret. In order to grow your business and expand your mind, you need a controlled environment, like a plant growing in a greenhouse. It's my mission to help experts and entrepreneurs grow rapidly by leveraging outside resources and unlocking universal wisdom. But the question is, how will they do it? Join me on this epic journey as we monetize our passions, scale our businesses, and master eternal abundance. My name is Aaron Chivitarese, and this is the Growth Podcast.
Welcome to today's episode. I'm here with Sandra Hessely, author, business coach, and keynote speaker for Tony Robbins and Dean Graziosi. Welcome to the Growth Podcast.
Thank you for having me. So excited to be here.
Yeah, absolutely. My pleasure. Well, we've been getting to know each other and chatting for a little while here before jumping on, and it's actually very fun. I didn't even push record. We've already done a full show, it feels like, right?
Yeah.
Funny. So, Sandra, for the listeners and the viewers who don't know you quite as well as I do, can you tell us a little bit about yourself, please?
Sure. So I like to start with I'm Canadian born and an American now, and I've lived across the U.S. I traveled and moved about 17 times. And I graduated in finance in the traditional education model. I did not like it at all, but I was told to do it because that was the success path. And I was a Division I softball player in university. I loved playing on a team with people, but I wasn't like super on fire for softball. But you know what? Scholarships, right? So I left there and I went into commercial finance for real estate. And I was an analyst for a while. I hated every second of it. But again, success, that's what you have to do. And that's the cost benefit. So it wasn't until I kind of started climbing up the ranks, left the financial analysis and went into become the director of sales and marketing for 2 different companies doing international real estate, where I actually ended up getting fired instead of getting a bonus that I earned. And it was at that point, this is about 10 years into my journey, that I was like, wait, that was supposed to be safe. That was supposed to be the thing that would protect me, that degree, that corporate job, that the benefits and all of that. And that was a total lie. So it was then that I was forced into this entrepreneurial life that I was so terrified of for so long. I never wanted that. And it turns out I'm really good at that. I love it. I'm able to help way more people, and I'm able to like live life on purpose. And really, like, I feel like it's a vocation for me because I'm not only affecting, as a business coach and a speaker, I'm not only affecting their business impact, that they can grow their business and impact more people through that, but I'm also along the way, you know how it is, you're teaching them things, but like the life bit comes in. So I'm ending up helping them in life along the way. So I just feel very, very on purpose every time I show up for my clients and I show up online in any way to help. This was a total unexpected turn for me that ended up being like, kind of like a dream, like you and I were talking about earlier. It's cool to kind of like live out a dream that doesn't feel real.
Yeah, that's awesome. Wow, what a journey is right. Holy smokes. That's cool.
Yeah.
You know, speaking of sports.
Hey, yes. I would have brought my mitt.
Yeah, we could play. For the listeners who can't see us, I have my baseball glove on here. And we'll play a little virtual catch because
yes,
these days, at the time of recording this, it's this coronavirus that's going around, right? And before we jump into a lot more about you, because we have a lot to unpack with you, and you got a ton of awesome value to bring, but this virtual world that we're in right now, isn't it interesting how folks like you and myself, who do a lot of our networking and things on the internet, to like you reach and impact more people. That was the main thing that I realized when I transitioned as well. I was like, there's more impact here.
Yeah.
Just more reach.
Yeah.
I was on a tiny little island with like 7 kilometers long, but I could reach the entire world. That's my moment.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, oh, this is how I can impact, right?
Yeah.
But like now people are having all these virtual, like I was on like a virtual house party, it was called, the other day with a bunch of my college friends. And like, they've never been online before. They were like, oh, we can talk on the internet. And we were looking at each other and they were like this. And I was like, man, I'm on Zoom like 10 times a day. But now everybody's waking up to this reality. Isn't that interesting? On just a total side note. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. It's so funny. I was on a virtual birthday party this week. and everyone's, my mother was like, do I have to download this thing? And this is going to be something I don't use. I'm like, believe me, you're about to use it a lot. And so we've got all these different people celebrating my son's birthday. I've got 4 kids and he just turned 5 and he was like, where's everybody? And I'm like, they're here. And he's like, that's it? I'm like, yeah, it's on a screen now. So get used to it, buddy. But it's all, like the board games, people are doing charades, board games, like parties, happy hours. Like, people are seeing how much difference they can make between the top attire and the bottom attire. Like, look at how fancy I am up top and look at the PJs on the bottom. And it's just like, it's so weird, but so much of it is awesome.
It's true. So are you wearing PJs?
I'm actually wearing jeans today. It's kind of a step up. They're stretchy, so not really that fancy.
Yeah, it's funny. It's so funny. It's so funny you say that because it's so true for people who work and integrate and connect online with this top bottom thing. I've literally, my wife laughs at me all the time when I do this. When I'm coaching a sales team, I coach these guys, and one of the rules is you have to dress to impress, even if we're just at home, right? So everybody's wearing a suit, like, full on. I got a tie on, I have my tie clip, and like boxer shorts or PJ sweatpant bottoms, and I do it every time because there's no way I'm putting on pants. Like, why would I put on? I'm gonna wrinkle them. I got to get them out of the dress. No, I'm just gonna wear my comfy clothes.
Actually put them on. Yeah. It's a lot of work.
I hate pants. Right? Pants are the worst. So it's just so funny. This moment is just such a funny moment in time. But I'm quite. There's always a silver lining around everything. I think a lot of people are actually waking up to the impact that they can have by going virtual, by the amount of people they can reach, and how they can actually change the world positively from sitting at home in their PJs, right?
Yeah, exactly.
It's cool. It's cool. Okay, so very interesting stuff. What a cool time. So let's rewind just a little bit. For a lot of the listeners, and myself included, I also transitioned and went through the whole corporate thing and realized some truths about it, and then escaped. Maybe for someone who's listening, good word. For me that was the word for sure. I mean, here's a side note for you. When we were in Singapore climbing corporate ladder, I got so just instantly clear that I didn't want to be there that I actually went into my pocket and I paid 2 or 3 months, I can't remember, salary out of my pocket so that I could escape my contract. Right? So
nice.
Because you're locked in for how many years? I was like, I got 3 more months left on this thing. I'll just pay my way out. They were like, you have to pay your full salary. I was like, whatever, I'll pay the whole salary. What's my salary? It's not that much, is it? Damn it. So here, I'll just pay you and I'm out. So anyways, I hear you. So back when you were in that world, the corporate world, doing all that, and you had some experiences with not meeting your expectations as far as your personal value and how they viewed you. For somebody who's listening to that and they're thinking like, oh yeah, that's cool, but like, she speaks for Tony Robbins and Dan Graciosi. She's an author. Like, she has all these things going on. Of course she could do it. But back then you weren't that person you are now, right? They're in the frame of where they are now. So how did you get the courage and how did you have the self-belief to be able to step out of that reality and confidently walk forward into the reality you're in now?
Great question. Okay. So, I always qualified myself as very risk averse and very, very careful. And that's why the idea of owning my own business was like such a joke. I'm like, I will always be jump man. I'll always be number 2. Give me your VP position or whatever. I will never be number 1. I want to be the support person because you give me a job and I will rock it and I'll do it better than anyone. And I will put my nose to the grindstone, but I don't want the responsibility and risk of being number 1. So it took getting fired to push me into this entrepreneurial space. And so while I was doing freelance and business coaching all the way along, I was actually doing business coaching while I was in commercial real estate too. all these tenants, all these leases to grow and build. So, but my husband is a chiropractor, and he was getting very frustrated for the office that he was working for. And it was kind of like all the worlds collided, and we needed to, like, the opportunity presented itself for a really low rent, for a really easy way to get into owning our own space and creating our own brand. And I was like, I don't own anything. I don't know how to make a business. I can be the director and marketer all day long, or the director of sales and marketing, but I don't know how to run a medical clinic. Like, I have no idea what I'm doing. So I Googled everything because I had to. Like, at this point, I was pregnant with my third, and we were like, I had over 400 applications go out. I'm talking about, like, I closed multi-million dollars in sales for real estate internationally. I had the best connections in my area. I knew all the VPs and owners and execs of everywhere, and I could not get a job. I was being blackballed from the industry, and I could not get a job. Aside from that, even outside of industries, I was looking for jobs anywhere, and I couldn't get anything. So I believe God was like closing, slamming doors left and right for me, pushing me into this space. And it took me about 2 years before I put my hands up and said, fine, I guess I'll try entrepreneurial, whatever. And then, and this opportunity came. And so I said, okay, let's say yes to it. I don't know what I'm doing, but I know that I'm going to try until I fail. Like, it either works or it doesn't. So it was, I look back now, and kind of back way to answer your question is, I look back now and why didn't I have enough courage? Like, it took me getting fired to do something. Like, I wasted years where I could have been happier. I could have been changing people's lives instead of, like, making a company richer with better lease and sale transactions. Like, this is something that's more on purpose and helpful. And I'm impacting families' lives and relationships, and they're impacting other people through that. And so, so I think that people underestimate Google and asking advice from other experts, and I think they overvalue their degree. Like, it's this big, beautiful thing that's going to save you. It's like, you don't need a friggin' degree at all. And I tell my kids the same thing. I've always, since this happened years ago, I have told my children, who are, the oldest ones are 12 and 14, I've said trade school, entrepreneurial space, service-based industry, online space. Like, I want you to be good at school because I want you to be disciplined. It's not about the grades. It's about showing up. So those habits will support you in your life, but, like, I don't need to, like, pressure them to get all these good grades. I want them to be successful, and I don't want them to over-respect the traditional education model, I guess, because I feel like that was a big failure for me.
Yeah, that's a big one. I think there's a shift going on energetically in the world where people are realizing the degree, it's something that previous generations placed a lot of weight on, and rightly so, because that's what they knew, right? But now you can see that the world, maybe you've read the book, The World is Flat. It's an old, nice book. It's not about, it's not, by the way, it's not about the world being flat. Okay, everybody, the world's not flat. It's about saying how we're all connected and everything's very close to us now, we can touch. So as the world's getting smaller, like right now we're chatting on Zoom from many, many miles apart, you can realize that, you know, you don't have to go get that degree and go get that job in downtown core to go make money.
Yeah.
You can come on here, you can impact, you can travel very easily, you can go around the world, you can speak all over stages, you can go to Kenya and build schools, you can do all sorts of things. The world is literally your oyster now, and people are like waking up to that fact. And when you realize that the traditional schooling system, it really sets you up to jump into the corporate space and to get into that that sort of 9-to-5 grind. It's literally breeding you for that. That's cool. We need that as well, but you don't have to go that route, right? There's many other ways you can go. And I think more and more people are learning than waking up to this, especially like my wife and I go to Bali all the time. And one of the places that we love going, not going, but like are aware of, and we see it, we can't actually go into it, is the Green School. Maybe you've heard of the Green School in Bali. It's a school for kids, obviously, but it's kindergarten up to grade 7 or 8, like just before high school. But it's extremely unique in the sense where they teach the things that I believe that age of a child should learn, right? Like, my wife and I don't have kids yet. We will, but our dream is to send our kids to that school. It's extremely expensive, but that doesn't matter, right? Money is just energy, and we can find that anywhere. But what they learn is, like, you know, gardening, like how do plants grow, right? Like, they learn how to communicate with people. They learn languages and not maybe the whole language structure, but like there are other languages. They've kind of taken a page out of like the Japanese culture in that way, the way they raise their children and stuff. It's an open environment, you know, they're all kind of together running around. It's like 90% of the thing is playing, you know, like they're art and using their mind. They're developing their imagination and stuff. So I think the more and more of that happens, and the less and less of sit in a classroom and stare at and memorize dates. Like when did the president die? Like, hello, we have Google now. You don't need to take up your mind with that stuff. Yeah. So the more and more that's happening, the more and more I think society will shift that way. So it's funny for people like in our age range, we're kind of in the middle. I always say this to people, right? The older generation, they were kind of stuck with that model. The younger generation understands now, and they will be open, and they'll go out, be more entrepreneurs. It's cool to be an entrepreneur now for young kids. Whereas before it was like, that's risky. Yeah. It's like,
it's not a real job.
Yeah, it's not a real job. It's like, actually it creates the job that you're talking about anyway. So yeah, it's an interesting moment. So when you were going through this transition and you were finding yourself there, and sort of, it took you a little bit of time, but that's completely normal. You were in a moment there in space and time. What was going on inwardly that nobody else could see?
A lot of doubt, a lot of fear, a lot of, I've never done this before, so I don't know how I could make this successful. I didn't have anybody in my life that had owned their own business. I didn't have anybody that was an entrepreneur. And so this wasn't a model that was like, that felt safe. I wasn't familiar with it. I didn't know what it was supposed to look like. I didn't know what success was really supposed to look like, other than other people are supposed to think that you're great. I didn't know what it was supposed to look like. So I was scared that I was doing it wrong. I was scared that I wasn't growing fast enough. I was scared that I could lose it all. I was scared that it would all be on my shoulders. It would be my fault if it did. And then everybody would hate me, and I would ruin my kids' lives. And these are the things that I was thinking of alongside all of the innovation and the objective thinking and the creative play and trying to troubleshoot through these new problems, because I would get new problems every day because this whole thing was new to me. So I would do what I knew, and that was like 10%. And then I would just find out everything that I didn't. And what happened when I decided, it was a matter of committing to doing that, though. It was a matter of saying, like, I feel all these things in my body. My body's feeling tense, or it's feeling scared, or I get like jolts of excitement and happiness and hope and joy. But like, no matter what, I have to keep going, because like basically my boats were burned at that point, right? Like I had already done corporate. It didn't work. And I tried to go back in a lot of different ways in any job, and I couldn't get the job. At that time, the unemployment rate was really, really high. But the president had shut down long-term unemployment. So I was getting no help at all. And I was still suffering from a car accident that was work-related from before. There was just like a lot going on, and I couldn't get any help from anywhere anymore. It was up to me. So it was like, I don't like this. I'm not comfortable here. You either need to like stay resentful, Sandra, or you need to like buck up and just do the things and like get in love with it. Because if this is your new normal and you've committed to this, and you decide not to do it anymore, then that is your choice to fail. So I'm okay with failing when I've tried my hardest, but it was wrestling with the fear of failure. If this is my best and I'm trying my hardest and I still fail, how worth it could I be for anybody, for anything? And so I think that there's a lot of that. There's still that, like, right? Like that's still happening. I still get those feelings. And especially now when things are shifting, like my husband and I own a brick and mortar. Like we own Buffalo, New York's most highly successful all-natural weight loss program, but it's in a building and people are not allowed to come in. And like, you know, there's fear there too. Like a lot of people are experiencing that. We are not alone. There's also a feeling of, because we're not alone, it's okay. I have more peace in my body than I did when things were like going better and less scary than I do now. Like when things are looking tumultuous out there, and there should be more fear, I feel peace and I feel settled because I'll still do the things. I know what it's like to go through those ups and downs in business, of my own business, and still come out okay. And like you talked about, when you had to shift and transition things online, it's like, so if our worst case scenario in the business world is bankruptcy, how many millionaires have rebuilt from bankruptcy? I mean, it's endless. Like, is that really our worst case scenario? Okay, whatever, let's just build again. So I think it's getting to the worst case scenario too, when I feel those feelings and I have that tension in my body. I do a lot of meditation and prayer, but deciding that like, okay, what's your worst case scenario though, Sandra? Like, how bad's it really going to be? Has like God ever left you stranded and those 4 kids ever gone like without food or shelter? Nope. Okay, you're fine. You're fine. So it's like hitting the reset button like that almost every day.
Yeah, absolutely. You hit something very crucial there. When I went through the roughest patch in our family's life, it was recently, right? It was about 1.5 years ago. We discussed this a little bit before coming on. It was, I transitioned from corporate into brick and mortar and owning, I think we had about 20 different brick and mortar businesses that we were at some fashion either investors or consulting for, or had our fingers in it somehow. And when they all went away, literally in the same month, everything stopped. That completely broke us, right? We went from positive cash flow and pretty nice lifestyle to the bank calling me every day, and I don't know where that's going to come from, and they're foreclosing buildings, and it just completely flipped on its head, and it spun me into a bit of a depression, as it would for a lot of people, right? Like I all of a sudden I was like not myself anymore. I wasn't running. I wasn't doing the things that I usually did to get my energy up. And I started kind of going in a spiral, right? And I was in that spiral for probably 2 months. And that's the longest I've ever been like sad. I've never been depressed in my life, right? And that came from nowhere. It just hit me like a brick. And I was just boom. And then I kind of picked myself out of it through, a lot of inner work, meditation, a lot of journaling and thinking, and just getting my thoughts out and just kind of sorting out what's going on. And in those moments, I was chatting with a couple of my mentors in various spaces, and one of my mindset guys who's, he's very deep into NLP and all sorts of stuff. And he was like digging into me, and we were not digging, he's asking me questions and I'm just talking, right? That's how it works. And he's coaching me through the process a little bit. And I started realizing that if I really looked at myself objectively, like as an observer, I could see that I still had everything, right? Like we still had the amazing house, right? We were living in, we were renting a portion of a house of our best friend there who has a beautiful beach home. So we had a portion of it and we lived in that. I was like, still have the nice home. I was like, still going for a run with my dog in the morning. Actually, I don't even have to think about the job anymore, the work or the consulting, because I don't have it. So wait a minute, I've just relieved a ton of that stress. I was like, well, I still have the fresh fruit platter when I get home, and I all of a sudden I realized, and I had a pivotal moment. So if you're in a depression or you're in a down state right now, this is how you know when you're going to pop through the breakthrough. At least this is what it was for me. Maybe it was similar for you. When you're in the lowest you can possibly be, as far as you feel like I'm so down right now, this is the worst it can get. And if you ask yourself, am I still extremely happy with everything around me? Like, am I taken care of? Is everything cool? And I realized I'm actually the happiest I've ever been, because I had time to go for my runs, and I was practicing yoga. Like instead of half an hour, I was doing 2 hours, and instead of reading 10 pages a day, I was reading like 110. Like I literally was going through a book every 3 days. And I was like, wait a minute, I'm on this amazing personal development journey here. And my wife and I were connecting because we were always together. Like we didn't have to go do stuff. We were always together. And I was like, actually, this is like the best moment ever right now. This is actually amazing. And he said, that moment is when it's going to go vertical for you. Like everything's going to change. And it was exactly in that moment when we decided, maybe we should pivot and move to Europe. And maybe I should pivot and actually focus on this internet stuff that I've been kind of looking at for a little while. And we made that pivot. And since that moment, everything had changed. Literally everything changed for us. It just went straight up. And to get through that dark time, I encourage you to understand that you're still you, right? These outside circumstances are exactly that. They're just outside. You can't control them. Don't worry about them. If other people are doing crazy stuff, just let them do what they're doing. They're not you. But if you can remain centered and true to who you are and actually go inside and work on yourself and kind of find where you're passionate for and find where you can serve and where you're the most potent in this world, and then find a way to express it. For a lot of us, it's using the internet because the internet is global. If you can express it, then you don't have to think about quote unquote money, because as soon as you start serving on a high level, money just starts showing up because it's a law. right? And when I realized that, I was like, oh, everything is awesome. And then it just went boom. The depression was completely gone. I was super excited. I like started doing push-ups again, and I was like, yeah, everything's awesome. Woo, you know? But then, you know, but at the same moment I look at the bank and I'm like, that's the worst it's ever been, but I don't even care. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, no, what you said right there, I was just talking about this in one of my groups today, that like the whole, I know that it doesn't sound like it could be real, that you put the service and the high service first and then the money comes. It's like, yeah, Sandra, that's nice in theory, but like if that actually happened, like I've been good to people and nothing shows up. Like it's not about that. It's about flipping the switch and like energetically getting really behind that idea and deciding that that is more true than anything else. The money does show up. And also this outside circumstances, I started my group talk today for like coaching, and I was saying like, hey guys, it's gray and cloudy out. How are you? Like, it doesn't matter. Like my outside circumstances do not dictate how I feel. Like I could not possibly be responsive all day long based on my environment. Are you kidding me? I'd be in an insane asylum, like no question. So it's deciding like, you have to think about that. Am I am I reactionary to everything around me? Or am I deciding to be happy despite that stuff? Because I hate to use this example, but I love to use it because it is the most poignant. It's the most smack in the face, like example that I could ever think of. But the tragedy and the trauma of the Holocaust and the victims of the Holocaust, there are so many stories of people being joyful and singing and happy and living longer and surviving because of joy and hope. And like they were in the worst place in the world and they were still deciding to find joy. So like if they can do that and they're also humans, then like, can we decide that even if the bank account doesn't look like we need it to look, things aren't that bad? Because you can make them better if you get your energy behind that. Like you can, and you'll be healthier too. Like you said, all of a sudden that switch got flipped and you're doing push-ups again. And like your body feels better. And I'm sure your circulation and your energy was up and like you're maybe more creative than you were the day before.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's crazy actually. And yeah, I also didn't understand the service thing until I did. You know, you just have to come into that understanding yourself. I have, of course, like, you know, like quotes and things all around my other house, not my parents' bedroom where I am here, but and one of them I had from Robert Kiyosaki, and it was like, you know, Zig Ziglar, you know, help people get what they want, and you'll get everything you want, right? And I was like, I honestly didn't get that for a while. I was like, I don't know. I was like, how can I help these people get what they want? I'm screwed right now. I need to focus on, that was my thought. I need to focus on me. I need to fix me. I. And then as soon as I went boom out, because as soon as I started learning the internet stuff, quote unquote stuff, I instantly started coaching people on what I had learned. It was just a little bit, but I was like, hey, you know, I kind of figured out how to like build an autoresponder. Like I figured this thing out. Anybody want to learn about it? And like, there'd be like 3 people on a Zoom. I'd be like, okay guys, so, you know, you can send emails to people, right? Now check this out. Boom, boom, boom. And all of a sudden I was like, well, those people got some value from that. I didn't think anybody, I thought everybody knew that, but actually there's always people slightly behind you on your path, no matter where you are in the journey, right? So you're just giving back. It's like a chain reaction. And I realized that. And that's when I stepped into the coaching and the mentor space, not as a coach, but as reaching for coaches. And I was like, reach, and then give. And I was like, oh, I get it. I get it. So that was, for me, the paradigm shift. So how did you discover your current business direction? I mean, you're doing some amazing stuff. You're an author now. You're a high ticket business coach. You speak on stage for Tony Robbins and Dean Graziosi. I mean, that's no joke at all. I don't want to quite get there yet because I want to save that for but how did you discover your current business model and the things you're doing now?
Okay, good. Yeah, good question. Because it all seems like, what's she doing? Why is she? How is she? Where did that? Okay. So because I know, even my close friends are like, what are you doing again? But because I was in commercial real estate and I graduated with finance and marketing and advertising, but like marketing and advertising being the bundle, but like none of that marketing was relevant. Like that was so outdated at the time that I graduated, even that it didn't even matter. But because I was in the finance world, because I dealt with so many different types of tenants and investors that had different businesses, different industries, I was like, I dealt with everything. So as as an employee for a corporation that houses those tenants and wants those tenants to be long-term tenants, wants those tenants to grow with them, wants those tenants to grow out of their space and build with them, then it was part of my job. I took it on as my job. It wasn't told to me, but it became part of my job to coach these people where they had blind spots and where they had holes in their business. And I'm seeing their warehouse distributions, or I'm seeing their internet sales, or I'm seeing their retail frontline division, and I'm seeing their medical supplies, and I'm seeing all these things, and I'm looking at their staff, and I'm coaching them along the way. Like, you've got an opportunity here. You've got way too much overhead over here. You've got, like, let's look at your P&L. I was digesting all this stuff with them to help them along the way. So I had been coaching them for years. And so that was almost like, I can't believe I get to do this while I'm working. Like, that was fun for me because it was so helpful to them. But I didn't know that that's why I loved it so much at the time. It was just like fun. It was like a puzzle. It's fun to figure out for them, right? But the reason, like, looking back, the reason why I loved it so much is because I helped them. Like, I was the person that could come in and solve a problem for them, and they were frustrated. So I just made them feel like their body feel better, and I made their business do better. And I'm thinking, like, that, looking back, that's why it was so great for me. So although I didn't fully step into business coaching and decide to freelance at that point, I was doing it all the way along. And then once I had lost my job, I started to do more freelance work, and I was doing website development, and I was doing marketing and branding, because I have a background in that too. So creating new brands, rebranding, and creating online companies for other people, doing that kind of freelance work. I didn't consider that a job, because again, I was just like doing a thing, and they're going to pay me for it, but like, that's a thing. That's not like a job. And because a job is corporate, that's a real job. So when we opened the business, my husband and I, the clinic, and I was doing all of that, and then a lot of doctors started coming to me. How did you grow this thing so fast? What are you doing? I've been in practice for 15 years and I can't get it like you're getting it. Like, what kind of numbers are you doing, and how are you doing it? And I'm like, how are you not doing it? That was kind of easy. But like, I was Googling everything and trying everything. And these people, like, doctors have the disadvantage of not taking any business at all. So they've got no business sense unless they do the work for it. And they're all just like, they've got this insane specialty, but like, they don't know how to run their business. So they're all asking me, and I'm going, So I started coaching them on an like individual basis, and they're like, their minds are being blown away by things like you said, like the autoresponder. I'm like, how did you not know? How old are you that you don't know? But they don't know what they don't know, and you come in to help them, and the gratitude that they have, even for the free help, like the gratitude they have is like overwhelming at times. And so when we came into this space, it was about 2019, early 2019, a little over a year ago, where I was starting to feel less satisfied with the health clinic, in that I didn't find myself I didn't find this to be my vocation, I guess. Like, this is my husband's the doctor. I will build this thing again. Like, I was safely, even though this is my own company, like, I'm safely sitting in the jump seat, right? Like, my husband's the face of the company. He's the doctor, and I can be over here, no risk, right? And then I started to get a little disgruntled, and then the Knowledge Broker Blueprint came out. And I'm a Tony Robbins fan, and I've been through Business Mastery, and so I was on their email list, and I went on the training, and I was like, this is it. This is something that I need. I don't know what it's going to do, but I know that I got to have it, because like, this isn't working for me. This doesn't feel right anymore. I'm burning out, and I'm like, I can see my light dying a little bit. And I've got 4 kids, and I know I bring that stress home to them when I'm not loving my life. So I took the course, and it was like, that's it. I've been a natural coach my whole life, and I love doing it, and it makes me so happy. But the idea that I could charge like that for that, I'm like, but then you look at the ROI from coaching. The ROI is always there. They always get their money back, and way more. So it's like, I started to remove the emotion behind money, and started to really invest my time in believing and getting behind the fact that it is a resource. It's just energy. Stop telling yourself the same lies that you were fed when you were a kid about rich people and wealthy things and all that. And so I would ask for what I was worth. And then I started really getting paid for what I was worth. And then I had the energy to get behind all of the help that I kept bringing people. But it wasn't at first, it was the help for free that happened first, while I was going through this course, to like unpack my expertise, and to make me realize, yeah, it was always coaching, Sandra, like, this is what you should be doing. And so once I started kind of like playing with it online and helping people, and they're going, oh my gosh, you're amazing. You helped me in all these different ways. And I'm like, oh, I thought I was just business coaching you. And they're like, yeah, thanks for helping me earn money, but this was awesome too. And this is, so I was like, this is it. This is it. I'm so excited to get up in the morning. Like, this is what it feels like when they say jumping out of bed in the morning. I am not a morning person. Everything in my body hurts. Do not wake me up early. But like, now I want to get up. So like, when you find your passion and like, and you can, and it's about helping people, like really serving people versus like making some rich guy richer. Because it's really like, let's be honest about corporate real estate. I mean, there are investors that are really philanthropists, but like the business model itself is to make more money to make more money. So, and that's it. Like what I do, what you do is truly help people. And it started with just helping them with no strings attached. And that felt amazing. And then the money showed up.
Yeah, that is amazing. That's very cool. I believe we got connected initially from the Knowledge Business Blueprint Facebook group.
Yeah.
Right? That's where we met each other. What a high vibe community that is, right? Like, wow.
So good.
I know. I love Tony and Dean as well. And I've been following them obviously for years. And when KBB came out, I was like you. I told my wife, I was like, I know you've never watched a webinar and I've only watched 3, but Tony Robbins is doing one today with Dean Graziosi. I don't know what they're going to talk about, but we need to watch this thing, you know? And so we did. And this was right in the, like, this was exactly in the moment when we were struggling. Like, that was a struggling moment for us. And I was like, oh, it's Tony Robbins. He's going live for 3 hours. He's talking business with Dean. Like, of course, this is something I need to be involved with. What is it? And as soon as I started watching it, I was like, this is interesting. I wonder what this, and I wasn't quite where you were at that moment, right? Like, I didn't click like, oh, this is what I should be doing. It actually woke me up to, oh, people are doing this. You know, like, I was like, oh, like people do like online masterminds and stuff. Like, I had no idea. I was too busy running beach resorts and stuff. I was completely offline. I only went online to check my email for work. Like, you know, I didn't do Zooms and stuff. I had no idea about this stuff. And I was like, what do you mean online mastermind? What do you mean coaching? Like, I have a mentor, but like, I got to fly to him or whatever, you know, and when we meet up for like a dinner when we're in the same town kind of thing. And that opened me up for sure. I was like, this is cool. So I bought the KBB instantly. I went through it very fast. And I was like, I had the feeling, now coach me through this a little bit, because a lot of people listening probably feel this. And I felt it as well. And it took a mind shift for me to get through it. The feeling of, I'm not good enough. I'm not worthy. Why do I have the right to coach people?
Yeah.
What's your opinion on coaching and why almost anyone can be a coach, actually? What do you think about coaching?
Okay. So good. This is so good. Okay. So, I'm pretty deep into my faith, and I just kind of got there really. I dabbled since I was about 7 years old, but I really just finally started falling into love with my faith, and I really believe that that because God said we're worthy, we are. And if he is the creator of everything, and he decided to make me a certain way, then that's all there is to it. And I don't get to be the one to say like, no, you didn't do it good enough. Probably messed up a little bit though. Like, I get to make mistakes and everything, but I don't get to say that I'm not worthy of things. And when it comes to coaching people or earning money, like we'll take money for instance, because it's an easy one for people to wrap their heads around. When it's just a resource, if you think of it just as a resource or just energy, it's the same thing for me as if I take a deep breath. Do I feel bad about it because I took a lot of air in? Do I feel like I took more than like the little kid who has smaller lungs? Do I feel bad that like, oh, now the trees are going to have to work harder to make more oxygen? Or do I feel like I'm taking it from somebody else? Like, I don't feel that way. So why should I feel that way about money, which is also just a resource, an exchange of goods and services and value. And so when it comes to being worthy, it's like, I'm not the best. Nobody's the best. There's nobody that's the best. There's always going to be somebody moving into the better spot and getting kicked out every second and every moment. So nobody's the best at anything. And maybe they are for a split second momentarily, but then somebody else is the best. So it's like, it's not a static thing. So if nobody's the best, then who can you help? Somebody that's not as good as you? Perfect. Go help them. That's it. That's all there is to it. Go help them. They need the help. And you know what? Maybe they won't be connected to the better version of you. maybe they have no way of accessing, they don't know who they know, but like they know you. Can you help them or not? Yes, then help them. You have an obligation and a responsibility to just show up with your God-given gifts and help people and get out of the way and stop telling yourself a story that you're not good enough, you're not qualified enough, because if you can help them, that makes you qualified. And it doesn't take a degree or certification or any set of resume rules to decide that for you. And that took me a while. It took me a while because in the corporate model too, in the education model, you're ranked by level of importance through your grades, through your certifications, through your mastery or doctorate or whatever. And then in the business world, you're ranked on your position in the corporate ladder. And if you're not here, then you're not good enough. I don't even speak to you unless you're C-level exec. I don't even speak to you unless you are the gatekeeper for the CEO. Like we rank people and value them based on that. And so when you come from a corporate environment into entrepreneurial space, it tends to be like that for you mentally, where you're like, I'm not good enough because I'm not this. It has nothing to do with that. That's not even relevant. It's a matter of, can you help them or not? So go help them.
Yeah, I love it. That's awesome. That's awesome. It's totally true.
Yeah.
It's totally true. And that's something a lot of people face, right? Like, who would listen to me and all this stuff. And one of the things that I've learned by being coached, and I've learned the difference between, say, like a mentor sort of relationship and like a consulting relationship and a coaching relationship.
Yeah.
And see if you agree with me on this. Coaching, I feel like, and I heard this from one of my mentors who coaches me, and we talk about this, and he talks about this a lot. So for me, it makes a lot of sense. Coaching, he says, and I agree, anyone can coach anyone. And the reason is because coaching, I'm not telling you what to do. I'm not consulting you like you're doing X, you should do Y. That's consulting, right? Mentorship is like, no, don't do it this way. You should do it this way because look, I did it this way. This works. Coaching, it's all about you, right? It's asking questions.
Asking questions.
It's asking questions. So technically, if you know the questions to ask and you know how to dig to get the person to open up and to find themselves and to find those answers, you can coach anybody.
Yeah.
That was a paradigm.
And in a sense, I didn't even coach you. You asked me to coach you, and I just mentored you.
Yeah, no, that's
telling you.
That's what sparked it for me. I was like, this is a mentorship session, because I was accepting it like that, and I was like, wait a minute, this is exactly the thing I'm thinking about, and it's so true, because that's the stark difference. So people that are like, I can't be a coach, it's like, wait a minute, no, what you're saying is you can't be a mentor yet, maybe in your space, because you don't have the experience, like you haven't got the accolades yet. Okay, that is probably true. But you can coach, because if you can ask questions, it's just like sales. If you can ask questions, you can get them to move emotionally and find themselves and speak and open up. That's coaching. It's all about them.
Yes.
It's all about them.
Yes.
Right? Interesting paradigm.
Because those questions act as bumpers. They act as guardrails for them. You know, like you asking a question is actually putting a bumper against them and making them bounce back over here and answer the question to stay in line or to make the progress going forward. And so you're right. It's absolutely something that other people can do. And yeah, mentorship, but people get those terms confused a lot because they're thrown around kind of like interchangeably, I guess, all over the place. People use them improperly, I think. And you're right, making that distinction between those two things is very important. The coaching piece is for everyone.
Yeah, absolutely. I love it. That's super important to understand, for sure.
Yeah.
Before we talk about Tony and Dean and your keynotes and things you're doing there, because that fascinates me. I have I've meditated and envisioned myself speaking on many stages in my life, and I know that that's where I'm going to be impacting for sure. So
yes.
I'm very interested to hear about that journey a little bit. But before we go there, as far as planting seeds and things, it's the growth podcast, right? We're all about growth here. So I always use the metaphor of a seed, and a seed has all the energy and everything it needs to grow into a tree, but it's just a little seed. You can't see it, right? So people a lot of times feel like, I'm putting in the work and I'm not getting the reaction. I'm not getting the result yet. And you have to think of it as a seed. You plant it today and you harvest it in the summer. Like, it takes some time. So it's all about planting seeds continuously every day, and the harvest will come eventually, right? So as far as planting seeds and things like this, it always comes down to resources, books, things that are, helped you along your journey to plant various seeds for yourself. right? And work on yourself throughout your journey, because clearly you've been on the self-development path a long time. It's very obvious when you speak to someone, and it's very obvious with you. So do you have any books or favorite resources that you liked or that helped you throughout your journey?
You know what? I would say that the first contemplative kind of mental awareness and emotional shifting that I started to learn from, because I play with a lot of different types of tutorials, audiobooks, podcasts, like YouTube's. But Bob Proctor was the first one that I remember hearing about when it came to like deciding what your life would look like, deciding to help co-create what your life could be, or deciding to envision your future and then just make it. And the idea of meditation and all of that. And to me, that sounded like a lot of wasted time. Okay, so I could meditate and spend 30 minutes quiet in a room thinking about a lot of stuff that doesn't feel like meditation because I can't control my thoughts. Or I could get down to business making phone calls. Let me just get down to business making phone calls. Like, so I would tend to like respect the money making activities and the work activities over the mindset activities. And like, it was a slow drip. I'm a slow learner when it comes to this stuff, but little by little, when I would implement tiny pieces of advice from like Bob Proctor or just the Bible or Abraham Hicks or Gabby Bernstein, and Tony Robbins, and I would see those little things, and I would pay attention. The more you hear things, the more they sit in your subconscious. They come up again, and they kind of like rub up against you, and you're like, I should look at that. And the more I kind of tested those ideas and tried them and stopped resisting the idea of meditation or quietness, like even guided meditation, because I'm still doing guided meditation, not my own. Like, I need to be guided still. I'm at that phase. But I didn't know that there was like a physical reaction that happens in meditation where you do spark creativity and energy and feeling in your body that feels good and better. And all of a sudden you stop worrying, you stop caring about the other stuff. Like, the outside circumstances stop becoming so important. And you're like, oh wait, now I can focus on my work, and now my work is better. And now I can reach more people, and now I can do it through service because I actually care about the service. Now I get the service piece. And I feel like what we talked about earlier about clicking that light on, for me, it was through meditation that light turned on, because I was so practical, so tactical with everything that I did. I mean, you're taught that in corporate world to be that way. Nobody talks about meditation in the C-suite. So when you start doing it and applying it, you're like, oh, it works. Like, I guess the ancient civilizations all over the world kind of had it right. Okay. So I think it was that. I think it was a lot of that. Does that answer the question? Did I derail?
No, perfect. I love it. It's awesome.
Okay.
Yeah, it's totally right. And we have a lot in common. You know, we have very similar experiences, and I was the same way, right? Like, pick up the phone, make it happen, do the meeting, do the tactical stuff. I got 5,000 emails. I don't got time for this. You know, like that's, you know.
Yeah.
And there's a funny saying, when I read this at some point in my life, and when I did, it also kind of made me think, right? It's like, if you don't have 30 minutes to meditate, you need to be meditating in an hour.
That's it. Yeah.
And I was like,
exactly.
I don't have 30 minutes. And I was like, well, I wonder why they're saying that. And yeah, Bob Proctor is amazing. I love Bob Proctor. Yeah. He's old school for sure. Love it. Mm-hmm. I still watch his videos and listen to his content almost daily.
Oh yeah.
I love him. He's
Same
awesome.
Too.
That's awesome. He was the one who actually enlightened me to the whole paradigm shift. What is a paradigm shift? Like, literally, what is a I was like, oh my God, I was conditioned as a baby. Oh, I got it. You know, he was the one who kind of sent me down that road. And I was like, wow. Okay, so cool. Let's chat a little bit about your experience with Tony Robbins and Dean Graziosi. I know you're a keynote speaker for them. They handpicked you to represent them on stage and do all these amazing things. How did that come about? How's that experience? Just give us the goods on that, because that's amazing.
So fun. It's so fun. Okay. So obviously joining the Knowledge Broker Blueprint and going through the course and being like, this is the path for me. I'm doing the things, I'm implementing everything, and it's making so much sense, and it's making my life filled with joy, and I am living on purpose, and this is my vocation. Amazing. So I was truly lit up. And within the group, the private Facebook group that the KBB has, obviously at that time there were maybe like 16 to 18,000 members or whatever, but I would go in and make videos for other people. Like, hey, if you're struggling with this part of the course, like here's what I did, here's what helped me, or, oh, by the way, I just want to come in and encourage whoever. And I started to get a little bit of attention for that. And somebody at KBB, I don't know if it was one of the moderators at the time, invited me, like, hey, we're going to be doing a contest for speakers. You should, put your name in the hat. And I was like, that's weird. Why would they? I'm not even like, I mean, I've spoken in crowds of like anywhere from like 50, 250, 400, 5,000. Like I've done that before, but I wouldn't have considered myself a speaker. Just like freelancing isn't a real job. So, it was like a technicality for me. And so they ran this contest. They said, Tony and Dean do not have the time in their schedule throughout the year to make it to every stage that they're being asked to present at. We need a team of speakers. So they asked us to submit a video, and there were, out of the group at that time too, it had grown to about 20,000 people, and 600 people had applied, a little over 600. And I got cut down to like, I was one of the 25 that made it through to like the second round. So when I want to say this to speak to this about the energy level thing, because for some reason, it was like one of the first times that I can ever think about where for absolutely no reason, I had no reason to believe this, none. It just kind of like came over me where I was like, I'm going to make it through the second round. I'm just going to do this. What? Like, I'm not a cocky person at all. It wasn't even like that. It was like, and then I caught myself thinking that, and I was like, why would you think that? That's stupid. Anyway, but no, like that feeling is still there. I'm going to make it. And I was like, So then they called me and I was like, how did I know that? How did my intuition that was going to happen? So when I went through the second round, they're like, make a longer video and riff. Do not, this is not a script. We want to hear your thoughts on this. They wanted to see how we would perform in a semi like mock model. So I did my thing, and then they called me out to go to Arizona. And so I went to Arizona, and there were some other people there, and we had gurus of stage speaking that work with Tony and Dean too, from Advance Your Reach. Pat Quinn and Pete Vargas are two of the best stage speakers around the world, and they train people around the world, including like people like Grant Cardone. And they were going through our submissions. We had to do all these videos. We had to do like 8 videos, like 10-minute videos of these segments of our speech and what we would do as a keynote. And they were there to pick us apart. And I was like, oh, this is like an audition. Okay, I'm going to throw up. And if I knew it was like an audition format, I probably wouldn't have gone. But they were like, just kidding, you didn't make it yet. Like, you still have to go through it. And we're like, oh God. So we had to kind of perform in front of everybody else that we were like competing with. And then they let us know that that me and 3 other folks were on the core speaking team. So there's 4 of us, and they also wanted us to be, along with another like several people who are amazing at what they do. They wanted us to not only be, the 4 of us to be speakers, and we got additional training too. We got like $10,000 worth of training each for our keynote presentation. It's a very specific type of keynote to sell from stage versus to just inspire from stage. There's a lot of psychology involved, a lot of body physiology, a lot of stuff going on. But then they asked us to train their workshops because they were doing these KBB implementation labs to get these people who've gone through the course, like, cool, you went through the course, now do something about it. Like, some people just need that hand-holding. So they would go into the workshops, and we got to train them. And I was like, this is my best life for sure. Like, I get to come in here and play with people for 2 days and get them like the business launched into, this is so much fun. This is like business coaching on steroids in 2 days. So I was loving that. And then they said, like, come back next month. And I'm like, is this for real? Like, are we really doing this? Is part of my job now? I love this. And I never wanted to be like employed by somebody else again, but like, this is, I want to be employed by this. So as long as this, obviously we've been grounded from stage speaking because of what's going on. So whenever it picks back up, it's going to get real fun, real fast. And they have this event coming up in October in Las Vegas, for when Las Vegas can, have bodies in the city again. And there was talk about having us on stage there too. And I'm like, this would be really fun. So we don't know what any of that looks like right now, but obviously I'll keep you in the loop. But that was I think that the whole point is that for no reason, I took a risk that I don't like taking, like submitting my video, being vulnerable and putting myself out there, and also like having meditated enough along the way at that point. Like I was listening, I was getting quiet at times. Like this was all kind of happening around the same time, like in early January 2019. This is when that all started to happen. So the feeling of like, do this, that prompting that like your inner self gives you to do something, to urge you to take action on something. That's what meditation can do too, to say like, hey, go here. No, go here. Like, go here now. Stop hesitating. Don't, don't second guess, like, let's go. Because if you're being obedient to that voice, then you're going to make it. But like, even if you hesitate and you don't act on it for 2 weeks, that's not being obedient to it, and you might miss it, And so if I didn't have that pull from my gut and recognize that I was being called to put my name out there for that, I wouldn't have gotten it. And having done that opened me up to the workshop trainings that I can do for people, which opened me up to more coaching for other people, which opened me up to two of my best friends now that are business partners in a group that we have on Facebook to help people do the same. And 3 other women that I now have a group with called like Wonder Women Mastery. This is all from that one saying yes. It's all from that one thing. So like meditation, I can't even, I don't know, it kind of all started there with all of that, I think.
Wow, that's awesome. What a story.
Yeah.
That's so cool.
I know.
Congratulations. That's so awesome.
Thank you.
The coolest thing is when you chat with somebody and you can just tell, like, it's so obvious watching you tell the story that you're living your best life. It's so blatantly obvious. Big smile, crystal clear eyes, super energetic, high vibes, because you had the courage, like you say. This is the huge thing that a lot of people struggle with, right? It's like you have an intuition telling you that this is the move. Right? We always hear that voice in our mind telling us like, that's the move. But sometimes it's cluttered. If your mind is busy, that's where the meditation comes in, right? If you're open, if you're calm, that's when the download comes and you can hear the sign. When you hear that sign, be like Sandra, be like Sandra, take that signal and run with it. Even though you're scared or you feel like maybe it's should I do it? Shouldn't I do it? It sounds scary. I don't know what to do. I don't know. She just busted out those videos and just submitted it, right?
Immediately.
Just before you can stop yourself, basically, right? Like, have you read the book or heard of the book, The 5-Second Rule?
Yes, and Mel Robbins.
Yeah, Mel Robbins. This is the thing, right? Like, you just do that thing, and things happen.
Yeah.
And it's opened up a whole new world for you. You're speaking on stage. I saw you have photos with Tony and Dean. I mean, obviously you know them, and you're in their energy, like, and just being in their energy vortex, just being that close to them and working in business with them. Like, is that something you ever even fathomed happening?
No. And honestly, like there's a sense of, Tony and Dean talk about it a lot, and a lot of entrepreneurs do, but proximity, being in proximity to people who are doing better than you is so important. And it's not just because like, hey, maybe they'll throw me a nugget and tell me what to do and make me a lot of money. It's also about, that happens, but it's also about like, their mindset is so high vibe that you don't even like, you're not even going to be welcome if you are talking about stuff down here. Like, they don't want to sit in anything. They want to talk about opportunity and growth and excellence and service and leadership and like all these good things. So if you have some garbage to sit in and stew about, or if you're like really frustrated about something, like, you can talk about it only if you're looking for a solution, only if you're looking to get to the next level. And so being around mindsets like that, being in proximity to people who are doing better, who've gone through the mental battles, and just like mimicking them and looking at how they respond to things and being like, yeah, the big boys don't sit and cry about it. The big boys figure it out. The big boys ask questions. They are transparent and vulnerable to say, I don't know how to do this, and I'm going to find somebody who can help me. So like being in that space with them, no way did I ever think that was going to be me, because I also didn't think that I was going to be a business owner. But like being in that space was also like, oh, this is how it's done. Okay, got it. And when you said, Aaron, about fear, about like you act on it anyway despite the fear, I want to make a distinction too about fear, is that there's a fear of what are they going to think of me, and then there's a fear of like, I better not get too close to that bus, it's about to run me over. Those are two different body responses, right? And I think we physiologically know the difference between I don't want to get judged fear versus like there's a machete coming for my neck fear. So like when it's the judgment fear, that's when you have to push through it anyway, because fear's never going away. The fear will not disappear, no matter how far you get in business, relationship, health, whatever. It's not going to go anywhere. It'll keep coming. You got to keep remembering that, oh yeah, that's here again. I'm about to bust through it again. And let it just be a response that you do, that you feel it, you hate it, you bust through it anyway. And now you're over it.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I love it. It's so important. That's such a good distinction as well, to be able to recognize that consciously.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Consciously, to consciously know like, oh wait, I'm just fearful of being judged. Just do it.
Yeah.
You know, a machete. Okay. Get out of the way. All right. Yeah, absolutely. So throughout this journey that you've been on, absolutely amazing. It's just so awesome to hear. What was like, if you can look back on it, it's always hard to look forward and project what's going to happen. You can never really know. You could never have known you were going to be with Tony Robbins, right? I could have never have known I would be moving from Asia to Europe. Like, you'd never know these things. Life happens, and you have to pivot and respond and do your thing. But you can look back and connect the dots, right? Mm-hmm. And you can always look back and connect the dots and realize like, oh, that hardship there, that was the lesson that made me pivot to there. And then you did that thing. And then, okay. And then I met that person, and then I learned that, and I pivoted over there, and I did this, and you can connect it all the way to your present day. And if you have the presence to look back and actually connect those dots and be grateful for the person who got you where you are now, right? Be grateful for that person who got through that hard time and pivoted, and then went to the next space and made that hard decision and like hunkered down for 6 months learning a new skill. Be grateful for that person who got you to that next spot. And then that person who decided to get you here. And then the person who had the courage to stand on that stage that day. I'm grateful for you. Thank you for that. And then you got to this space now. I feel like if you can quiet your mind and look backwards on your timeline, connect those dots and bring it to your present moment, and then look forward to where you want to create and create new dots and actually focus on them. If you can put yourself energetically there, and as one of my mentors says all the time, be it before you see it. Mm-hmm. You can be it before you see it in the timeline, and go out and feel the feeling. Like, what do I feel? Okay, you're feeling it energetically, and then bring yourself back, and then go back on the timeline again, gratitude, forward, back and forth. That when you actually move down that timeline later, you will actually be able to keep it. Versus it surprising you and it slips through your fingers. Because that happens to a lot of people. It happened to me. You find success and you're like, yeah, ego kicks in, you didn't see it coming, and then all of a sudden you're just the king, and then all of a sudden you're not. It just slips right through your fingers. Mm-hmm. So if you can prepare yourself in advance by doing this sort of an exercise, this timeline exercise, that's a massive help, right? So that's been one of the aha moments I've had over the last few years. Do you have any sort of I know, it's so powerful. Do you have any like, for me, that was a big transformation, was the gratitude looking backward. That was a huge one. Yeah. Because I always thought like, why did that happen to me? Damn it. I was doing so well, and then blah, blah, blah. And I'm so angry about it. I'm like, I flipped it completely. I'm grateful for it. It's a lesson. It's gold. I'm so happy that happened, because I learned so much and I had to pivot. And now thank you for that pivot, because, whatever, this happened and this happened, and it's awesome. So when you're looking back on your timeline or where you are now, do you have a transformation or a change that you maybe didn't see coming that you now can recognize in yourself, maybe a personality trait or something emotionally or energetically that's different in you that you could have never projected?
Totally. So I think that, we talked about Bob Proctor entering into space, into my ether. And I'm like, oh, who's this? What's he talking about? What is this nonsense? Wait, this nonsense is amazing. It's not actually nonsense at all. And like going through the transition of that. And then having that, I've always been like a default grateful person. Like, it's always been, I can always find joy in things, like always. I've been called Poppy from Trolls. I don't know if they're calling me a troll or calling me really happy, but like, that's what I guess sometimes. But anyway, I think that it's a matter of like, it had to happen. That bad thing had to happen. It had to, because it did. So if it happened, it had to happen, because that's how our world worked. And so if it had to happen, and I do believe that everything that's bad has some good out of it, that there's always good coming out of the bad. And so if it had to happen and there's always good, then I'm so grateful that it happened, that bad thing. And I've had plenty of my own trauma, sickness, loss, heartache, financial ruin. I've had all of it. And I can still find good in it, and I can still be grateful for it. And so when I decide that it had to happen for this to happen, like, then anything can happen and I can be okay. And I know that by saying that, that invites a lot of like, oh my gosh, like, but your worst fear of losing certain people in your life or whatever, like, or, you know, dying or whatever. Like, yeah, but if I believe that through and through, then I believe that if that happened, something good would come. I have a lot of peace by knowing that. And I like what you say, if you can look back and like be generous and grateful for yourself then along the way, like you look at yourself, if I look back at myself when I was like under 10 years old, and I was in a moment where I was feeling very afraid, very embarrassed, very sad, confused, unsure, unqualified, rejected. I'm so grateful for that little girl for trying again. Like, I'm so grateful for her to, like, I wish I could go back there and say, it's going to be okay. Like, you're going to do it and you're going to get stronger. And like, it had to happen because your skin wouldn't be thick enough to do this big stuff that's going to be so awesome. And so reflecting back on moments like that and imagining myself, my future self, looking at me right now, being scared about something, being like, it's okay, little lady, you're going to be old and gray and this is all going to be like water under the bridge. And like, I want to, like you said, be able to look forward to that future Sandra and come back and be like, we got this too. We got it. And it had to happen. And you can be grateful, like, before it happens.
Yeah, exactly. I love it. It's so true, right?
Yeah.
It's so true. Cool.
Yeah.
Cool. Okay, Sandra. Well, it's been an absolute pleasure chatting with you. You have such amazing energy. It's awesome. I'm so happy.
Too.
Yeah, I'm so happy for everything you're doing. It's so cool. I look forward to seeing you on stage at some point, kicking butt up there and delivering some heavy value to the folks, which is very cool.
When humans can reconnect again. Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. We will. I'm sure we will many times. So
Yes.
for the listeners and the viewers who'd like to check you out, see where you're at, follow you, get to know you better, where can they find you?
Yeah, so I'm on LinkedIn, Instagram, and Facebook. And you can you can honestly Google Sandra Hasley. The last name is spelled not like it sounds, Haseley. So if you Google that, you'll find me on my business page on Facebook. My personal page is public, LinkedIn and Instagram. You can find all my stuff there. And my groups are listed within my profile. So I love connecting with people and the relationship building. Like, this is gold. Like, we connected together in that group and I was like, oh, he seems like he's doing awesome stuff. He seems like a great guy. And now that I've gotten to meet you, it's like, I love it when I'm right. And like, people are worth investing your time into, you know, like, this is great. So yeah, feel free to connect with me. I love getting to know new people.
Yeah, absolutely. It's been amazing, Sandra. Thank you so much for being on the Growth Podcast. All of her links are in the show notes. And we'll see you inside the KBB group.
Yeah. Take care, Aaron.
You too.
I hope you enjoyed today's episode. By the way, you know, there's some people who want to build an online business, but sometimes are scared of scams or who to trust, or they begin and they just get lost in the daily task with no blueprint to follow, right? And because of that, they never get started and just end up staying in the same position year after year, because time flies, you know? So if you're thinking to yourself, there must be a way to create a predictable, stable income online, but you don't know where to start, I've got something you might enjoy. Head over to www.bjkugrowth.com. Watch a quick interview I had with my buddy. He's an 8-figure earner. His name is Bashar, and he gets into, you know, how he grew into a successful online entrepreneur and how he now is helping thousands of others do the same. You're gonna love it. You know, I've seen so many lives changed just learning this valuable information from him. So it might just be what you're looking for, you know? So go over to www.bjkugrowth.com. I'll see you there. And thanks again for tuning in and supporting the Growth Podcast.